Hilda. Hilda. The newest addition to the Orm Secretum team, which now makes two people on the Orm Secretum team, Hilda and Hypatia. They will soon be joined by a third, Irrheia, and Irrheia is really going to activate this team. Right now, Hilda and Hypatia are sort of waiting on the next addition. And because this team is rather incomplete, I don't recommend Hilda yet, unless you already have Hypatia or plan on getting Hypatia and plan on getting Irrheia next month. Hilda is a bit of, it takes a while to read Hilda's abilities. But what you need to know is that she has this stacking mechanic called intelligence. And the longer the fight goes, the more intelligent she gets, up to 600. And if you get to 600, she does 6 times as much damage as she normally does. And her allied Orm Secretum summons, Hypatia's turrets, will get half of that benefit. So Hypatia will get up to 3 times damage. Now, Hilda is kind of works with Orm Secretum, but honestly, without resonance, Hilda's really just playing for herself. And she doesn't get resonance until Irrheia comes out. So Hilda's kind of waiting, and her team comps aren't that strong right now. The idea is to use Hilda and Hypatia together, but again, without any way to enter the resonance states, these two aren't helping each other that much. There's kind of like fringe bonuses for them being on the same team, but nothing crazy. For the rest of the team members, Hilda has the same problem that Hypatia did, where Hypatia has very limited partners, and it's because her summon is summoned at the start of the fight. In fact, Hypatia had such trouble with her partners that they ended up giving us 10 pulls because they buffed Hypatia to make sure that she could work with more people, specifically Irrheia coming up. But Shin, Lady Pearl, Eve, Stargazer, those are your best bets, and then you have debuffers like Raven, Hecate. You have LL to hand out more energy, Lysandra for core breaking, Summer if you're desperate, but like none of the options are really that great. They're all just kind of okay at best. Hilda and Hypatia right now really struggle with their teammates, and that's their biggest concern. Okay, taking a look at this in story, Mania trading ROTD, this is where we can actually start to see some of their problems that this team has. So first of all, if you have an S0 Hilda, you start off with 0 stacks. Mine's S1, so I start off with 30. You can see the stat count in the middle of the screen. You see Hilda's turret. That turret has a number 46 next to it right now. Those are your intelligence stacks. Hilda is doing 46% more damage, and Hypatia is doing half of that more. So if Hilda is doing 60% more damage, Hypatia is doing 30% more damage. And that sounds really nice, but it takes so long to build up those intelligence stacks. And without the resonance buff being released yet, it's literally not in the game right now. There's not any synergy between Hilda and Hypatia outside of that intelligence count. And honestly, that intelligence count is not enough by itself. It sounds really good, like 600% more damage. Who doesn't want to do 6 times the damage? But it takes so long to stack up those intelligence stacks. And beyond just that, both Hilda and Hypatia's ultimate costs are at 30. 30 SP is a lot. Like that's a Bai ultimate. That's like 2 blue ultimates. Like it's really expensive. 30 is like prohibitively expensive. And while this team can perform well in longer content where they're allowed to stack up to like 150, even in like the 100 range, they do all right. But the thing is, most of Path to Nowhere's game modes, including story, including ROTD, is very time-based. You don't usually have an opportunity to just sit back and relax like you do here on this ROTD stage. And if you don't have the time to stack up above 100 intelligence stacks, And this team really just doesn't have the punch that it needs. They did fine on this stage, right? It's a 2.5 minute long stage. I was able to get to 200 intelligence stacks, and it went rather well. I had to bring LL just to dump more energy into the team. But you can see they do have their use cases. They do perform at a good level, but their situations are so rare. And we're going to see that fully on display here in BFL. Again, this team requires that ability to stack the intelligence stacks. And in BFL, you're not going to get the chance to sit back and stack that. You need to defeat this stage in less than 50 seconds. So I had 2.5 minutes in the last stage. I have 50 seconds on this stage. And that's just, it turns out to be too big of an order for Hilda and Hypatia. So the idea here is that Hilda can wave clear while stacking up intelligence. And while the wave clear is good, like it's actually really good wave clear. Hilda does like pack a nice little punch. Problem is that she's not doing enough by herself. At least, again, not without Irrheia. When we get to Irrheia and Resonance is in the game about a month from now, then we can start talking about how well Hilda and Hypatia work with Irrheia. But without Irrheia, it just takes way too long to stack up the intelligence and find a meaningful difference. Like, Hypatia is already considered very weak for multiple reasons. The team compositions, the large SP cost, the awkward damage share. Hilda shares most of those same problems. And when we're looking at this stage, even though I am desperately trying to make Hilda and Hypatia do all the damage, you can see I haven't done anything to this boss's health bar yet. This boss's health bar has not moved. We're 26 seconds into the fight. We're halfway done with it, and the boss has been like tickled and nothing else. It needs so much more help than what you can realistically give the team right now. So in order to make this team even work, in order to just hit 240k, I had to include Reforged 11. And honestly, if I just went all in on Reforged 11, I would have done much better. If I took out Hypatia, Hilda, and Lissandra, and I just used 3 generic buffers like Thistle or LL or others, then 11 could have cleared this stage well before a 240k score, and wouldn't have had to like carry the dead weight on her team right now. Because if you look at this damage report, 11 did everything. She did more than double both Hilda and Hypatia, despite me pouring all of my resources into Hilda and Hypatia. Don't use this in BFL. As for Crimebrands, Buried Within, I tried to make Invergent Slash work, but it turns out that Hilda is a primary damage dealer. She does a lot of damage, as much as Hypatia does, and she really does need the damage from her Crimebrands, and this is your best and only bet, honestly. Very, very good Crimebrand, but Hilda needs this Crimebrand in order to perform. As for ideal investments, Hilda, she's fine at S0. She's good at, she's fine at S1. Like, you're not really getting that much of a benefit from her S1. It gives you 30 stacks of intelligence, so you start the fight with something, but 30 stacks is not very many. I mean, it goes all the way up to 600. So like, congratulations, you're 1/20th of the way there. It doesn't help too much. If you want to go really deep on shackles, and later ones help, but S0 ECB1 for the most part. And honestly, I'm disappointed with Hilda. It's difficult for me to recommend Hilda because it turns out that she really does need 3, maybe even 4 S ranks for Hilda to become good or usable. I struggle to use the word usable because everybody's usable, but you guys get the idea. Like, you need Hilda, you need Hypatia, you need Irrheia next month, and you probably need Eve. And that's just a lot of resources going into a team that's mediocre. Like, this team's not very strong. They're mediocre at best. And if you already have, like, Arcane Crit, if you already have Reforged Summons, like, just do that. If you're thinking about pulling Hilda, just pull 11. 11's has a banner right now, and you can get 11 instead of Hilda. and you will be infinitely more useful. This team is struggling on basic story stages. Like, not only is the damage low, you can see I'm struggling to take down the 2 bosses, but the turrets are so vulnerable, and you have to, like, move all over the place to protect the turrets to make sure they don't fall. Because, again, Aurum Secretum doesn't have any way to revive their turrets after they fall. And even in this stage, like at the very end of this story stage, I've got 126 stacks. I'm finally doing something, but it doesn't really matter if I have 126 stacks when the stage is over. You have to get to 120 stacks and then be able to use them. But at least here you can see that Hilda and Hypatia are doing the same amount of damage. Hilda is a damage dealer. And when we take a look at the tier list, Hilda is basically just Hypatia, except she also does a core break. Same SP cost, same problem, same restrictions that Hypatia did. So I'm going to end up putting Hilda in the worth raising category, right above Hypatia. They're not as good as Jane and Pine. Jane does the same thing that Hilda does without the core break, but for a much cheaper SP cost and without needing dedicated partners. And Pine does the core breaking infinitely better than Hilda ever could imagine. So while this team is usable, honestly, I don't recommend it. Just stick with Arcane Crit, stick with the Reforged Summons. I mean, Burn might even... This team is about as good as Burn right now. Now, this tier list might change when we get to Irrheia. Irrheia can mix this up a lot because then Resonance is on board and we can start talking about it from a different angle. But for now, Hilda is just too weak for me to recommend, honestly. She's worth raising, but that's if you want to. All right, that's all I've got. Disappointing banner. I was hoping that Hilda's introduction would make Hypatia really, really shine. But honestly, again, without Resonance, without Irrheia, who comes out next month, there's just not enough sauce between these two. While their damage is good and like passable, for the majority of content, it's just too slow. And even on like the longer form content, you spend your entire time getting all your stacks, and then you also have to have enough time to use those stacks that you've built. So it's a really clunky, wonky team. Not impressed. So grab Hilda at your own risk. I recommend you just grab Reforged 11 instead and use the same partners that this team would. All right. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.